what we call application lifecycle management. So if you think of product lifecycle management, which is more for like the hardware, that type of capability, this is for software management through the life cycle of software. And Codebeamer has been very influential in the automotive industry. And now that PTC owns it as part of our portfolio, we're really excited. We believe it's going to expand to other verticals. And kind of like your question you mentioned earlier, like how are they the same? How are they different?
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Brent Baker. He's the Vice President of Vertical Markets with PTC. Brent, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So, Brent, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, Brent Baker here. I'm the Vice President of Vertical Markets for PTC. Been with that company really about a little over 8 years right now. I am a retired Major General out of the United States Air Force. Spent 37 years in the Air Force, loved every minute of it, and really kind of did all things logistics, from heavy maintenance to maintenance supply, transportation, and very fortunate to live and work all around the world.
That's fantastic. Well, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but two of my brothers are Marines, so I appreciate your service, and I love
thank
meeting.
you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate meeting anyone that has dedicated their life to our country. So I appreciate that to start. But anyway, so tell me a little bit more about PTC.
Well, I'm really excited to be with PTC. We're what I like to refer to as an industrial software company. We have some really amazing solutions, from computer-aided design, which is where we got our start back in the early 1980s. And we've really expanded from there into product lifecycle management software. A few years ago, we were really, I think, one of the leaders in the Internet of Things, connecting smart connected products, smart connected operations. We've expanded to augmented, virtual, extended, mixed reality. And we do some really kind of amazing things like service after the sale with a tool we have called Servigistics, which is advanced spare parts planning, which is an amazing tool used really worldwide. And then we recently purchased ServiceMax, which is like a field service company. Now they're part of PTC. So if you think about what's going on in the world around digital transformation, digital thread, PTC has some really amazing offerings kind of from end to end.
Wow. So it sounds like there's a lot of really cutting edge technology. You talked about IoT, AR, how are these technologies transforming industries?
Well, I think the really neat thing about PTC, a couple of things. We're what we call open architecture, or you've heard MOSA, modular open system architecture. So we're able to really connect our software from end to end. And then we work with other software, whether it's an ERP or a maintenance repair overhaul software. So we're able to really bring really immediate business value, I believe, to our customers. Before I joined PTC, a lot of my experience with software vendors. It's not always the same, but they're writing a lot of code and it takes years. And our software is literally out of the box. It's tailorable to your needs. But I really think it brings like almost immediate value to the company.
That's really interesting. And, I think that the technology and the solutions that you're providing can really transform a company and help take them to the next level. So what would you say, some of the key challenges that your customers may have before they start working with PTC would be?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges around digital thread or digital transformation, I think a lot of companies are overwhelmed with it. They're like, where do we get started? It's so big. And a lot of these companies, you have a corporate level, you have several different business units. They're all using different tools. They've invested heavily in these tools. So I think one of the greatest challenges is really how they get started. And what we've really seen as successful is, the old saying, not trying to eat the elephant with one bite. Is starting maybe in one business unit or one area, trying to kind of get that started. We've also seen companies that are very successful where it's really kind of mandated from the corporate level to say, hey, we are going to move down this path. And then the other thing I would just say is, we view product lifecycle management as kind of the central cornerstone, if you will, of digital transformation. That includes product lifecycle management and application management, which is software. So, the hardware, the engineering, the software is all tied together. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges is companies don't know where to get started. And again, I would just say, I think PTC is a great company to help lay out a strategy for how a company can get started and start leveraging the software, some of this amazing technology, and quite frankly, even leveraging some of the tools they already have.
And to your point of, really making sure that you come up with a comprehensive strategy, is talk to me about how PTC is able to really help develop that for your clients.
I think the best way is we really have, well, maybe I'd say a couple things. One, we have amazing capability end to end, where some companies might be good at product lifecycle management, or maybe they're good at application lifecycle management. They really don't have an end-to-end solution. And I think a lot of companies have made serious mistakes where I like to call it, they sub-optimize. They buy one software suite and then they realize they're locked into that forever. It doesn't work with other systems and it's really not what they wanted, but they've already invested heavily. So I think working with PTC, I tell a lot of folks this, we really have an amazing capabilities from creation with CAD all the way through product lifecycle management, tying in the software aspect with like a tool we have called Codebeamer, being able to connect it with IoT, visualize it with AR, and service it after the sale. So that's one of my advice. If I was an independent contractor, I tell folks, you have to look at PTC if you really want to do digital transformation from end to end. And then the other thing is, we have years of experience working with companies. We have thousands of customers, clients, partners all over the world. So I think we're really a thought leader, and we bring that to the mix with the customers. We're able to say, well, have you thought about doing this? This is what this company is doing. And so I think there's a couple of really good reasons to work with PTC.
I think that's really great insight. And you mentioned, being a thought leader in this space, providing that, that end-to-end solution from, like you said, from the creation to software to the end. Are there any other ways that PTC is really able to stand out from its competition? I mean, I know those are two great ones, but just to, to really to elaborate on that.
Well, I think really our vision has been in perfect sync with where the markets are going. I think that's one thing that I'm really proud of. And it just didn't happen by accident. I mean, our company's had this open architecture strategy. We used to call it wrap and extend, and now it's called, modular open system architecture. But we've had that vision for a while. We've been very big into digital engineering. Our company started in that space. So I think we've been able to really keep up to speed what's going on in that market. And so to me, our vision matches really almost exactly what companies are trying to do with digital thread, digital transformation, and not just in US, but really around the globe.
I think that's a really important note, not only, talking about the US space, but also globally. So when we're talking about your clients, do you see trends in different industries, different size companies that tends to work best with PTC?
Well, it's a great question. And now, for several years, I ran just the federal aerospace and defense vertical. And I recently added under my portfolio life sciences, which is pharma, medical technology, and industrial. And it was interesting because those are very distinct verticals and very different in a lot of ways. But on the other hand, a lot of ways they're very similar. They have some of the same challenges, as I mentioned. Where do we get started? We have all these onerous regulations that we have to meet. They may be different in aerospace and pharma, but there's still regulations that you have to meet. Mm-hmm. And so in a lot of ways they're different, but in a lot of ways they're the same. And we're starting to see now that we're able to kind of pick out some useful trends across these verticals and really help influence our strategy.
Interesting. You mentioned earlier, Brent, one of the solutions, and I think you called it Codebeamer. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, so we're really excited. It's called Codebeamer. Yeah, Codebeamer. It's what we call application lifecycle management. So if you think of product lifecycle management, which is more for like the hardware, that type of capability, this is for software management through the life cycle of software. And Codebeamer has been very influential in the automotive industry. And now that PTC owns it as part of our portfolio, we're really excited. We believe it's going to expand to other verticals. And kind of like your question you mentioned earlier, like how are they the same? How are they different? This is another example. Everyone is using a lot of software. Matter of fact, you've heard the saying, software is eating the world. It's interesting. And, this is a fact I heard, but, there's now more software engineers than just mechanical engineers in most companies. And so we're really excited that we have really an industry leading software application lifecycle management tool in Codebeamer. And what's really neat about it now, Codebeamer is being connected with Windchill, which is our product lifecycle management tool. So you're going to be able to work, on the mechanical side, on the software side, and those are going to be integrated now, which is going to really, really benefit our customers.
Talking about your customers as well, you mentioned, PTC entering into the AR space. I imagine too, with one of your industries being focused on, manufacturing, that has to reduce the use of AR really has to reduce downtime and improve, the overall efficiency in the manufacturing process.
Well, a few things we discovered, a lot of companies really, they don't know their manufacturing efficiency or capability. And I think the combination of being able to use IoT, our ThingWorks platform, where you can really go in and measure what's going on inside your factory. We have another tool called Digital Performance Management, which runs on top of IoT. And if you think of it like industrial engineering for the 21st century, so we're really able to get insights into the inner workings, if you will, of your operation, your plant, your manufacturing plant. And so, and then on the other side, you have a lot of folks are retiring. You have a lot of new folks coming into the workspace, and they're visual learners. They love augmented reality. It's a great way to train people to really get visualization of what's going on. And so again, we think this combination of IoT to augmented reality is it's really becoming really huge, if you will, in the factory setting.
I think that's fantastic. Great insight as well. So, Brent, just to continue to, pick your brain a little bit, are there common misconceptions, not necessarily about PTC or the industry, just in general, that you tend to hear often from your clients that, may not necessarily be 100% accurate?
I think the biggest one, which I've experienced coming out of the Air Force, a lot of the really tough problems that we had, I thought they were technology issues, like the technology wasn't there and you couldn't do ABC. But really what I've discovered, and this is really going on, even today, it's more of a how to get access to the technology and how to use it than the technology isn't available or not out there. A great example I like to use is around IoT. Customers will say, well, what can you do with this Internet of Things? And I'll say, not being flippant, what do you want to do? Because pretty much whatever you want to do today, you can do it. If you want to connect machines or processes, you want insight, you want to be able to connect, anything from 30,000 readings a second on the edge to a spreadsheet, all that's available today. And I think there's really a misconception that a lot of this capability is not out there. And I think it's, again, folks just don't know how to procure the technology. They don't know how to use it. We need better education for folks of really what is capable. So those are some of the, I guess, bad perceptions I run into.
Mm-hmm. And to your point of education and support, PTC really does go out of its way to work on that education and support as well, correct?
We really do. I mean, we have amazing training capabilities. The other thing I would say about PTC, we're a kind of a company to fish. We don't fish for them. And I think that's a great strategy. Our software, as I mentioned, is out of the box. It's very usable on day one. It's very tailorable. But the idea is to train the people to use it so they get a chance to use it. And then, before long, they're up and they're teaching others. But we do a lot of education. We write a lot of white papers. We provide all kinds of, tools for colleges and universities, and even starting as, in high school all the way up through universities. And it's all really done to kind of educate people on this software and technology.
I think that's so important, and Brent, as we start to wrap up this call, I think this has been a great conversation, but, as we start to wrap up, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, either, about the product lifecycle management, about the different solutions, about the industry in general, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think the thing I would encourage everyone is not to be afraid to get started. It's like the old saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And so I would just challenge people not to be just overwhelmed and to get started. I think that's one of the, as I mentioned earlier, it's a great challenge. But what we're finding is that companies now are really, that the ones that have started are really seeing amazing benefits. And they struggle with it just like everyone else when they first got started. So you might look at the company and say, wow, they're really down the digital transformation path. But I will tell you, probably several years ago, they were struggling just like you may be today. So I think my final message for folks is don't be intimidated. Get started where you can. And in a few years, you'll look back and say, wow, I'm glad we got started down this road on digital transformation.
Well, Brent, I think this has been a fantastic conversation. I appreciate all of your insights, the very vast knowledge that you have of PTC, all the different capabilities. I think this was a great conversation, and I really appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
You bet. Thanks for the invite. And if anybody has any questions, please reach out to me.
Fantastic. Great. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Bye.